was a little bit curvy there, but that's okay. Okay, I want to draw some letters. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just draw a few little boxes here that I can put letters in. When I do 1-point perspective, I like to draw like the box first, kind of that the letter will fit into. I always have my students do that. I think it's a little bit easier for them. It may take a little bit more time, but that's okay. I want them to have a good product and do the very best that they can. And that means that they might have to spend a little more time to do a good job. So let me go ahead and make a few boxes here, and I'm not gonna measure these. I'm just gonna eye these up the right size. I think for now it would be fine. If you wanted to be a little more precise, you could measure these out and get them exactly the same size. I'm not gonna do that for this demonstration. And that one's a little bit small, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and draw a few letters. Let's start with something like an O. Now I'm just gonna draw block letters, very simple. You could do curved letters if you want to, but you know, you'll have to make that decision. It's a little bit different how it's done, and maybe I could do that in another video. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the letter O, and I'm gonna draw one side of the O, the second side of the O. I'm gonna draw the top of the O now. And then the bottom. And because these are going to be block letters, there's going to be no curves. So what I want to do here is just cut off the corner and cut off this corner. You'll have to do a bit of erasing. Cut off this corner. And cut off this corner. Now you might want to do some erasing just to make it a little bit easier for you. I'm doing this kind of quickly so you can see it's not exactly perfect. I think you probably could do a better job. I always tell my students, do a better job than I'm doing. I'm trying to do it fast so you can see how to do it, and I'm not taking my time to do the job that I want you to do. Okay, so I have an O there. Okay, let's go ahead and make a, let's do an A. With an A, what I usually like to do is kind of figure out where the center of this is, and then I like to draw from the corner, pretty close to that center line. Right there. I always tell the students when they draw their block letters, don't draw the legs off the sides of the box. Like the A, I want to come off the bottom of this box, not out the sides. It looks really weird when they draw it out the sides. I tell them, don't do that. It doesn't look good. Okay, and again, I'm taking this just parallel because this is 1-point perspective. You know, we always draw the front of the object first in 1-point perspective, and that's what we're doing. So we're drawing an A right there. And again, I'm doing this rather fast so that you can see it and not taking my time. Because if I take my time, that would be a rather long video, and you don't want that. You just want to learn quickly what to do, and then you can spend the time to do a good job. Okay. So I have my A. And then now we need another letter also. I've done an N before. That's always a good one because it has an angle. So let's do like, how about a P? Actually, let's do a T. We'll do oat. Pretty simple one to do. Okay. And again, on my T, I want to kind of figure out where the center is. And then I just draw this. Some of my students will be much more precise than this. They'll like measure it, which is all good. You know, block letters are supposed to be pretty accurate, the same size. That's all good if you want to do it that way. Okay, So I've got my letters here. Now what I want to do is I want to start drawing all my corners back to the vanishing points. So let's start with the T. Let's say we put our vanishing point anywhere on the horizon line here. Let's just put it right here. It could be over here, it could be over there. It really doesn't matter. You can do what you want. You're the artist. Okay? I'm going to draw all my corners back to this point. Now, this corner here I'm not going to draw because I'd be drawing through the T. I don't want to do that. This one I'm not going to draw back because I'd be drawing through the T. Same for this one. This one I can draw. Okay, so I've drawn those back. I want to go ahead and draw the top of my T. I'm going to draw a parallel to this line right there. I'm going to draw this line for this parallel to that little bitty line right there. Now some students will just drop down and draw that line, but you don't want to do that. You kind of want to look at this distance right here and kind of match it. So I'm going to say right about there. Okay, a little bit more erasing, it'll look a little bit better. Again, we're doing this really fast, so you don't have to sit around and watch me all day, and you can actually make art. So I've got a T there in 1 point perspective. The A the same way. Let's go ahead and draw all the corners that we can draw. Remember, never drawing through the letter. I was thinking later in a lesson, I want to do a few more things, but later in a lesson, I want to draw like a real object. You know, we've been drawing boxes and letters, and that helps you understand the concept, but you really need to apply it to something real. So I was thinking about drawing a real object in perspective, just like this, but in perspective. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the A. Remember, we're going to stay parallel to this line. It looks pretty close. And then we're going to stay parallel to the top. I could keep these all consistent here. Okay, and then I just need to erase those lines. That's pretty good. I could look in here, this distance here, and I look at this distance. I really can't draw anything in here. If I made the letter thinner, then I would have to draw a parallel line in here and a parallel line in there and then one across here. But because I made the letters kind of thick, I really don't need to do that. Okay, so what's next? Let's try this one. This letter looks a little bit thinner than the other ones, but again, that's okay. This is just for a demo. Okay, I'm drawing all those back to the point. Yesterday I had some students that were drawing their lines, but they weren't drawing them back to the point. And I said, well, what are you doing? Where are you drawing those to? And what they were doing is they were just drawing in the general direction of the point. And I said, nope, don't do that. Draw precisely back to the point. It will not look correct. So I had them erase it and redo it. And it looked a whole lot better. And when they got it done, they're like, okay, I get it. I understand what you're talking about. So we'll see how they do today. So I'm drawing these parallel to this one right here. Okay, so that's the inside of my O, and then I have to draw lines parallel to the lines out here, about the same distance. Okay, and this stays parallel to this angle. And this one stays parallel to this angle. And then this one right down here, let's get that, and it stays parallel to this angle right here. Okay, so those are my letters. I could erase all these lines and I would be good to go. If I wanted to, I could shade these areas back here, but we're not really worried about shading right now. We're worried about perspective. but I think you kind of get the gist. Remember that if this were above the horizon line, it would look different because the horizon line or the eye level is above, so we can see the top. And if this were above the horizon line, we would see the bottom. Okay, so it's a different perspective. It's not quite the same. But that's something that my students always forget and wonder why it looks different. And that's why. Also, another thing that they've been asking is when they get really close to the vanishing point, their letters or their objects look really skewed. And I tell them that's because you're really close to the vanishing point. So if I were to put this right up here, it might skew the letter a little bit, but that's okay. That's how it's supposed to look. Just keep to the rules of perspective by drawing all your corners back to the vanishing points, and I think you'll be fine. Okay, next time I'm going to cover 2-point perspective letters, and I've got some ideas for drawing an object and maybe showing you how to do letters in a different perspective. Also, I want to cover 3-point perspective, but we'll get to that next time. Okay, have a good day.